Hey everybody, Dave here. Today we are going to look at the 5 new actions that Power Automate Desktop has gotten that helps us to manipulate data tables. If you have tried this in the past, you'll know that it's really difficult and actually impossible to really change data tables in Power Automate, at least before the last couple months here later in 2022. So I'll go ahead and point out I had a video before. It was called, well, here's what the video thumbnail looked like, but that was titled How to Delete Row in Data Table in Power Automate Desktop. And at the time, this was necessary because you had to do some workarounds to accomplish deleting a row from a data table. And I don't want to talk about now how that worked because it's pointless now. We don't need to do it anymore. So this video is going to be not just related to deleting rows. We'll also work with the other 4 actions. But I wanted to point out that part of the reason I'm recording this video is as a replacement for that old one. Because that other one just doesn't apply anymore. So the way I'll handle this video is we'll start off by using each of the actions. I'll show you the inputs and we'll look at some outputs and we'll play around with it a little bit. I'll give some comments and stuff. And then we'll move into building some kind of flow, some kind of use case. And I have an idea for that, but we'll see how it goes. But I think what we'll do is probably compare 2 spreadsheets, and that will force us to use 4, if not all 5 of those new Power Automate actions for manipulating data tables. So let's go ahead and start with looking at those actions before we go build a use case. So we're in Power Automate Desktop, and I'm going to create a new flow so that we can go look at those new actions. I'll just call this Data Table Actions. So what you can do is go over to the actions search, and you could just type data table, but you might miss the actions because you might type data table as one word. I have no idea why Microsoft decided to put a space in there. That's so irritating. So rather than searching just in case you spell it wrong, you can go into the variables group, drop down, and then hit the drop down on data table with a space in it. Anyway, and then you'll see the 5 actions. There's create new data table, insert row into data table, find or replace in data table, update data table item, delete row from data table. That seems like most of the actions that you might need. I think there are probably going to be a lot more they're going to add. So I think this group is going to grow, and rightfully so. But for now, this is good enough. You might have to do a bunch of things manually as far as looping and handling the manipulation of the data table, comparing things. But sometimes I get RPA tools confused. So I don't remember if this has any other like data table comparison, but when you search for it, they don't come up. So I'm thinking of some other RPA tool. Anyway, they're probably going to add more. And let's just go ahead and try these though. Let's start with create new data table. I'm going to drag it over from the left side, drop it into the flows area, and I'm going to click edit. And immediately, if you haven't seen this before, you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, finally, because that's exactly what I was thinking. I love how it's like, here's helpful information. How does this work? Create a data table, defining the size and optionally populated hard-coded column headers. Like I couldn't tell that from just looking. Anyway. So what we're going to do is just create some random column names and put some random data into a few rows, and then we'll manipulate that. In the later part of this video, I'm going to come back and we're going to use the spreadsheet probably from rpachallenge.com that has specific data in it and column names that make more sense for like a customer list or something. But in this case, it's just going to be random. So I'm going to leave these as column 1, column 2, etc. Maybe we'll change one of them. So add new column, add new column, add new column. We got 5 new columns. I want to point out that you can remove columns by right-clicking on it and clicking delete. Now you'd think you could click the column header and hit the delete key on your keyboard. That doesn't do anything, and I don't know why, but that's how it is. And then rows, you can hit this little add new row button down here to add new rows. So we'll add 4, and you can actually click the index like number of the row, and you can hit delete to delete that row. So I don't know why that doesn't work for columns, but it doesn't for now. I'm going to add back that row. I'm just going to type some random data in here. Wait, can I hit tab? Oh man. Oh, it doesn't go down to here though. Why doesn't it go down to here? Okay, that's awful. E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O. This is the alphabet, by the way. P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y. Oh, that makes sense, right? Because there's 5 rows times 5 is 25. There's 26 letters in the alphabet, so that makes sense. We're just missing Z. Anyway, what we're going to do is just type, let's see, should we type a sample? We'll type Dave here, and we'll type Dave here, and we'll type Dave here. And we're going to use that later on. Let me also maybe type one of these as like a capital D so that the case is different from the rest. And then let's see, we can do Dave Morris like that. Okay. Save this and save. And so you can see that the data table over here does not actually contain anything, and that's because this is just an output variable it's created. This is not going to contain the data set that it's going to be put into it from this action. But let's run this, and it will create our data table, 5 rows, 5 columns. I can double click on this, and here's what we're used to seeing. Here's all the columns, and there's our rows, index 0 through 4, 5 rows. Here's our data, and we're going to come back and look for these ones that contain the word Dave in them in a minute. Our next action is insert row. Let's see. Here's what we'll do. We're going to create another data table. I'm just going to delete all but 1 row. Well, we'll do 2 rows. And I guess I can put Dave in this one too, into one of them. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I'm just going to change one of them to Dave. So it did numbers because whenever we go to insert these rows into the other data table, it will be clear to us which ones have been added because the first one has letters and the second one has numbers. I should probably point out while we are looking at this that you can use variables in here, which is pretty amazing. I wouldn't have expected that we can put variables in here or do an expression of any kind. That's pretty cool that you don't just have to do hard-coded values whenever you create the data table. So, if you had done some kind of calculations or something and you wanted to create a data table at runtime, you could use those calculated values right in here. So this is kind of designing a schema, not just a hard-coded set of data, which is pretty cool. But right now we're going to just hard-code this. I did not mean to click select, so let's delete that just so it says Dave. And save that, save. Okay, so now our next action is insert row into data table. So I'm going to drop that on here, and we need to actually loop first before we do that. So I'm going to go get a for each action. And we want to choose, we're going to loop over this second data table. I just realized we put it in the same thing. So we'll call this data table 1 and data table 2. And then we're going to loop over data table 2. We can leave it called current item. I want to call it data row, actually. Data row 2. Right, data row 2 comes from data table 2. And now we can go back to our actions in here. Let's get insert row into data table and drag it into the for each loop. The goal is to take the rows from data table 2 and insert them into data table 1. And since we know that we are looping through data table 2 here, getting data row 2, we are going to want to put that in the new value spot right here, data row 2. And the data table that we're inserting into is data table 1. That might sound slightly confusing. Data table that it's going into, data row that we're inserting into it. And then where do we want to put it? We could choose a row number, which is actually like, 0 index based. So row 2 would have an index of 1. And then I'm just going to choose end of data table because that makes sense to me. We're just going to append them all to the end. Let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to put a breakpoint here so that we can look inside of each of these. Here's data table 1, and here's data table 2. We want to append all these rows into the first one. So if I run that, it'll insert the first row. So let's look at data table 1. You can see that row's been added. And then we'll run it again. And then here, this row has been added now. Then we'll run it to the end. Our third action is going to be find or replace in data table. So I feel like we should test both find and replace. So I'm going to have to think about that in a second. I think I have an idea what I want to do there. So first what we're going to do is just find. So in the data table, let's look for Dave. And the search mode is going to be find. All matches, yes. So I do want to get all the matches because you remember we put a number of them. The text to find is going to be what I just typed up here on accident. So the data table we're looking in is actually data table 1. And then find using a regular expression. We could do that. I'm not great with regular expressions. What is happening? Is this where we would put our regular expression? I guess you'd type your regular expression up here. That's not super clear, but you know, it might look something like this. I think I might have that backwards actually. Is it actually like this? Wait, it's like the beginning of a string. And then like this. Anyway, something like that. There's tons more you can do with a regular expression, but just showing you, I think it might look something like this. At first I thought there would be a regular expression field, but I think you're supposed to type the regular expression into here. And you can look up regex, however you want to pronounce it. You can look that up on the internet, get yourself a regular expression, toss it in here, and then you'll be good to go. But we're just going to go with simple text. So I'm going to turn that off. And in match case, I'm going to leave this off because I want it to find Dave anywhere without worrying about whether there's a capital D or capital A or anything like that. And then match entire cell contents. I'm going to say true for this so that we can see that it excludes some cells where there's more than just the word Dave. So where I put David or Dave Morris, Morris should keep this from causing a match. Now, the search by I found super interesting. You could choose a column, which makes sense to me, and you could do like an index. So 3 or something, or you could do a name like a column. Very interesting that we have the option to do find anywhere or everywhere. So it will look in all of the columns and all of the rows for the value, which is really cool. And I wanted to change this to everywhere. And then the output is going to be data table matches. So let me show you what that output looks like. Let's run this. Okay, our output. All right, so here's our results. We have it in 4 places, and this is going to be slightly confusing, but remember that when it says like row and column, this is talking about a 0 index based number. So let's convert this. So row 1 would actually be row 2 because row index 1 is row 2. And then column index 2 would be column 3. So let's go look at row 2 and column 3 and see if it has Dave in it. Row 2, column 3 has Dave in it. And it's not just contains, it equals that. And then it found it in 4 other places, which probably if we compared it, we'd see that it's here, here, and here. And that it left out this second row of this column 1. And I'll bring this back up. Now, what we can do is loop over this. And if we wanted to, say, change each of these places, then we can do that. So let's do it manually, and then we'll change it to not be a manual loop because we don't need to do that. So let's go grab update. I think we're going to have to loop. Let's see. All right, so the way we want to do this, we want to loop over data table matches. So let's go get a for each. We want to loop over data table matches. And we'll just call this store into match. That represents a data row. And we'll drag in update data table item. So we want to update data table 1. Which row and which column is going to be based upon what we found in what we're looping. So we want data table matches. Whoop. So we want data table matches, and we specifically want, let's see, the column called column. I'm putting single, I meant to put single quotes around the word column, but I hit the enter key instead. Okay, and then we can just copy this syntax, paste it, and we'll just change column to row. And then the new value should be, we're going to set it to Dave. Okay. That way we want to, we can set it to lowercase first. Set it to lowercase. And now let's run it. And what we should see, once we've run this first part, is it will have combined the data tables into here. So here's all these. And it's also searched for Dave, case insensitive, but it has to, the whole cell has to match. So here's our 4 results. We're going to loop over these 4 results right here. And each time we loop over that, we are going to try to update that value in data table 1. So the first thing we should see is this one change from an uppercase D to a lowercase d for Dave. And then the other 3, these 2 won't change because they're already lowercase, and this last one should change. Oh, we have, okay, data table matches doesn't have a property called column. I think that I was supposed to use match. Yeah. So we'll change this. I do this all the time. I reference the data table instead of the data row that we just got out of the loop. Okay, so now we're looking at the data row, and the data row itself has a column called column and a column called row. So if I go open this up, you can see row and column. And even though we look in here, this looks like this has rows and columns, but it doesn't. The data table contains data rows, and those data rows each have columns. It's just representing it like this for us. Okay, so let's try this again. I'm just going to remove this and let it run all the way through to the end. Okay, and we'll go look up data table 1. So you can see all of these 2 before had a capital D, and now they've been changed to lowercase. And what we did is sort of a manual loop to look over, to find where all those places are that we need to update, and then loop over and change them all manually. So let's now try the other main sort of function of this find or replace in data table action. Just going to copy it and paste down here. So in here, let's change this to say find and replace. And what we're looking for is text to find Dave. We can leave it as an uppercase D as long as we have, let's see, where are we? Match case is off, so it will find a lowercase d, all caps, all lowercase, it doesn't matter. And then what we want to replace it with is Dave with an uppercase D. And we're going to search by everywhere. And we actually don't need an output from this, so I'll just show you that. So we can turn off the output entirely. And what we'll see is that it should fix everything without giving us an output, and then we don't need to loop over it. So we just accomplished the same thing in one step that took us several steps before. So let's go look at data table 1 and see that Dave. In case that wasn't clear, I want to put like a breakpoint here. Change the milliseconds to 1 so there's no delay. We'll just run this through really quick. Okay, so I stopped it here before it's run this. I just want to show you data table 1 has lowercase d for these 4. I'm going to just do this one step. And now it will change all of those like this. I think a lot of people are probably used to that kind of thing. Like in Notepad or Notepad++, you have that kind of find and replace functionality in Microsoft Word. And that's effectively what's happening here too. And I love that. I mean, it's just extremely useful. Maybe I don't use it, but I'm gonna. I mean, that's very useful. For things like cleaning up data, you can use this. You could just run this for different kinds of problems you want to fix about all of the data in the entire data table. Now, maybe there's better ways, and maybe this could be a slightly dangerous thing to do on a data table. So you want to be careful because you could just be messing up your information. But as long as you're careful, I think this can be very useful. Okay, so that was, we haven't done the most important action of all. I almost forgot. We have to delete a row from a data table. So let's just go in and decide what we want to delete. So let's say that we want to delete any rows that have, you know what? Let's just arbitrarily choose one because we already know how to find things using this action. So we'll just go over here and delete. It's just we'll just pick a random row. Let's go with whatever the second row is. So we want row index 1 because first row is row index 0, second row is index 1. So we'll go with that. And we'll put a breakpoint, run this. And before it deletes a row, let's go look at data table 1, see what it's, okay, so it's going to delete the one that has Dave Morris in it. So we should see that go away. And there it is, it's gone. Boy, these have been really good. I think this is a good set of actions. A nice basic set, right? You still have to do a lot of things manually, but that find or replace in data table, that concept could be applied in a number of other ways to give us new actions as well. And I imagine Microsoft will get around to that as they clearly are trying to do by adding more actions that will make things, quicker to develop and stuff like that. All right, so now let's go ahead and build ourselves a use case. So I'm going to, oh gosh, I didn't mean to run that. Awkward. Imagine if that had done something important. Whew. Now let's go ahead and close this, and I'm going to create a new flow. What I want to do this time is just do something that seems like it could be useful. Kind of a use case that helps us practice using these actions. And this helps internalize how these things work in my brain. And later on when I need them, I'll be used to it. We'll call this reconcile customers. And the concept I want to go with is we're going to download the customers list that you can get from rpachallenge.com. So here rpachallenge.com, and then there's a download Excel button. When you click that, it gives you challenge.xlsx. And in this, you've got a list of what could be customers. I mean, it says like company name, role in company. So they could still be company. This could still be customers though, right? So let's assume that's what it is. And we're going to have ourselves, let me go get that file actually. Let's see. We're going to drag that into here. And I'm going to call this local customers. And we'll open this up. I'm going to just make a few changes to it. So let's say that we have a phone number. Let's say we just don't have a phone number at all in this guy. And this phone number, we'll just actually make it invalid. Maybe normally you wouldn't do this, but I'm just trying to make it extremely obvious what pieces of data the automation is intended to correct. And that way, just for me to glance at it, it'd be a lot easier to tell. And then maybe John Smith is like an intern. We'll put it in capital letters. So when we come back and check this after running it, the capital letters things should be gone and it should be corrected. And I think that's pretty good for now. Let's go ahead and save this. And what we'll do is download at runtime, right? Schedule the automation, run it periodically, whatever. It should download this Excel spreadsheet and then compare both spreadsheets. When we download this one, we'll call it server customers because it's kind of the server copy. And we should use the server copy as like the gold standard, but we want to update our own copy. So I think the way we'll do it, maybe we do this differently if the focus weren't just to manipulate data tables, but in this case, I want to use those actions. So I'm going to read both sets of data from Excel into Power Automate Desktop, and then we'll have two data tables that we're comparing, and we're updating one based on the other. Then at the end, we'll write back into the local customers spreadsheet and delete the server copy. The first thing we can do though is get the URL for this. So if you notice when you click on this button, it immediately downloads a file. And also if you hover over it, it's probably really tiny on the screen for you, but it says the path to that, the path to that Excel file on the server. And so I'm going to right click on this and copy link address right here. Then we'll go ahead and test this. And the way we're going to test this is just to right click, copy link address, go to a new window, paste it, and then hit enter. And if it downloads it, then we know that that's working properly. Okay, so we take that URL and we're going to go into Power Automate and use it. So first, let's download. I'm just going to search for download. I have no idea where this action is. That's why I got to search it. We want to download from web. And the goal is to not have to open the browser to download this. Now in your use case, you might have to go open the web page on the desktop. Use Power Automate Desktop to automate the user interface. But anytime I can get away from doing that, it's a great idea to do. So I'm going to paste the URL in here. And then the method is get. And then the save response, I'm going to change to save to disk because it's for files. And then file name, keep original name. We're going to rename it. The destination file path is going to be C:/test data table actions, and then /. I want to call this server customers.xlsx. Connection timeout, I'm going to just change because if we have a problem, I don't want to be sitting here for 30 seconds. And I don't think I'm going to change anything else. Yep. And then the downloaded file I assume this will be the file path, so we'll see what that says. And let's just test it. Okay, so if you see over on the left, it created a new file called server customers. I opened this one and it should look just like we saw before. And you'll see like it's got the full phone numbers and John Smith is an analyst here. So I'm going to close that and we'll open up local customers again just to verify we did save those changes. Okay, we saved it. So there's intern and we got the phone number changes. And what we got in downloaded file path is the location that we downloaded to. So that looks good. The next thing I think we need to do is read both of them into data tables. So let's go to our data table. Actually, we need Excel, don't we? Let's see. Launch Excel. Open the following document. And then we'll go local customers.xlsx. We don't need to make the instance visible, but I guess we will just so we can see it come up on the screen. I guess that's fine. In this case, we don't need to, I'm just going to leave this turned off, but you could turn on read only, but like, I'm not worried about it. Nest under new Excel process, password, variables. Okay, so we want to produce for variables. Actually, we don't care about anything else. And I think that's the only thing I'm going to change. Save this, and then let's close Excel at the end. We're not going to save them. And we're going to read from Excel worksheet. Let's retrieve all available values from worksheet. This is a relatively new choice, and I love that. Get cell contents as text. Yep, I want to do that. And then the first line of the range does contain the column names. Now, what I want to put this data into, we're going to call the same thing as the file name, except without XLSX. So local customers. And then let's just copy all of this. You would normally make this a little more reusable, but it's kind of like a POC type of thing. So I don't really care about making it perfect. Server customers, and we can use the same Excel instance name. That's fine. And we want to put the variable to be server customers. Like that. And then let's just test it to make sure it works. It should re-download that file every time we run this. We could see it running in the background there. Let me make this a little smaller. Okay. Now that took a long time to run. So I actually want to run it one more time with this setting off that says to make the instance visible. I want to make sure that it can run faster than that, and then set the run delay to 1. So it still takes a little bit of time. That's strange. It does not seem like it should take that long to read 10 rows of data of just like 999 rows. Okay, that explains what happened there. Okay. Okay. That's fine. So let's go into local customers. And I think I remember now. There are issues with this. And I'm just going to go ahead and deal with it because we could cheat, but we're trying to download this thing at runtime. I remember one of these at least has like extra spaces at the end or something. Maybe it's at the beginning. Okay, so I don't know if we have any issues with the name of columns, but we definitely have issues with these rows. So let's try changing. So we don't want to go to first empty cell. Let's see if we can use a different action, or maybe just a different choice in here. Values from selection, value of a single cell. That's not what we want. Let's try this get first free row on column from Excel worksheet. And column. Put a little, it looks like it takes a little while, so I'm just going to let this open on the screen. I mean, what I mean to say is that it takes a little while regardless of whether it makes the instance visible or not, so I'm just going to make it show so I can see what's happening. And then if I hit a breakpoint, if I want to put a breakpoint here, that means that it'll open the Excel and then I can look at it. So we'll run this to download it from the web. Failed to retrieve first free row on given column, probably because I named it wrong. Last name. What? Do I have to give it like B or something? It's a worksheet. Do I have to do like column B? I might have to do like column B. Or something like that. What? Oh, first free row. Okay, so this worked. First free row is 12. So I guess we just can't, that's interesting. I guess we just can't use the built-in action because maybe there used to be data here, and I've run into this problem in the past. All of my RPA challenge videos have me explaining, oh, I deleted the rows down here. I didn't deal with it. So we're going to deal with it manually right now. Okay. Or not manually. We're going to deal with it automatically or programmatically in here. How do we want to do this then? I did not expect to be spending time on anything to figure something out, but you know, what am I supposed to do? I got to make it happen. Okay. Oh, here, get first free column and row from Excel worksheet. Maybe I should be trying that first. Excel instance. And let's try that. What does this put its value into? Get first free row on column puts its value into first free row on column, which is different from what these do. So first free column, first free row. Okay. And this first free row on column is 12. First free column. Oh, row. First free row is 1001. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the first free column output is working, but the first free row output is not. Why is there... Did they remove actions? I feel like they removed actions from somewhere. Huh. Because there's not like a get first free column on row or something like that. Maybe because get first free column would always be the first row. Well, this is slightly weird, but you know, it'll work. It's fine. And I think what we're going to do is use both of these actions, but not use one of the, in this situation. I think I'd probably make this a little bit better for production use, but like, you know, we'll be fine. We'll use both of these actions. We'll use this one to get the, let's see, column, first free column output. And then we'll use this one to get the first free row on column output. And then we're not going to use the first free row output at all. So let me just turn that one off. First free row. So now it's gone. And we'll change this to just first free row. On column B. And then now what I'm expecting there, or something I'm counting on, is that even though we don't have a phone number here, that we will always have a last name. Every single person should have a last name. That's a surname. If you're from another country where you don't say the term last name, that means surname. And everybody has a surname. If you don't have a surname, you don't get to be in the system. So I'm assuming that. And as long as that's true, then we're good. Okay, so we'll launch the Excel. We're going to have to do this for both of them. Yeah, we have to do this for both of them. So really, we should make this reusable, but it's fine. I'll probably drop this into a sub page or something. So launch, get the first free row and column. And then when we read the values, we need to read from a range of cells. And the start column, let's see, first line of range contains column names, get cell as text. Okay, so the start column will be 0. Start row will be 0, but the end column will be first free column minus 1. And then the end row will be first free row minus 1. Variables produced, local customers, that looks good. And then we close the Excel instance. Technically because when you launch Excel, it opens the workbook. So yeah. So I guess we'll close the Excel instance. And then let's copy all of this. Yeah, just in case I did something different, I'm going to delete these down here. And we'll just paste it. Let's change this up here to be server. And then this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. And this is fine. So the only thing that had to change, oh no, I did something wrong there. I think I need to read this into server customers. Yeah. The only thing I had to change was the file name that it opened and then the data table that it writes into. Everything else is handled exactly the same. So let's try this again. I'm going to save this thing. We're going to close our spreadsheet back here. And just for now, we'll delete the server customers file. And we don't want to delete local customers. That stays all the time. And we'll run this. So what we should get is the correct, especially the column number must be greater than or equal to 1. Oh, greater than 1 or less than 16,000. And it's saying the column number, first free column, first free row. Oh, greater than or equal to 1. Wait. Oh, because these are one index based. Okay, let's try that again. Pretend like that didn't happen. What? Please, I got to do it in both. I just didn't remember. Oh my goodness. Okay. Did it work? Okay, finally. Oh man. All right, so we have the same number of rows. That's the other thing I wanted to do. When in the local customers, I want it to have to add. So let's delete some people. Oh, we don't want to delete that one. Let's delete this. Delete this. So that way 2 people have to be added. And you know what? We could, because we're gonna need to delete stuff too to practice this. So we can just create a new set of, like a new customer locally that won't exist on the server. And when the automation finds that, it should delete what's in our version. So Bugs Bunny works for Time Warner. No, Warner Brothers? Warner Brothers. I don't know. Let's go Cartoon Company. I don't remember. All right, now we have some fake data that should be deleted, some data that should be added, some data that should be changed. Local customers. And let's run this again, because we should now see the number of rows change. For local customers should have fewer rows than the server customers. Okay, so local customers has 9 rows. Looks like this. That looks right to me. And server customers looks like this. That also looks right to me. Cool. Now, to make this a little bit easier to look at, let's create a subflow. I forgot how to do that. There it is. Get data. You can't have spaces. I'm used to Blue Prism where you can have spaces. Get data. And can I just drag? Oh my goodness. That's amazing. Wow. And now we need to call the subflow. Run subflow. Get data. Cool. And anytime you make changes in something like this, I feel like I think we all know you got to save and then you got to test. Okay, looking good. So let's see, what do we need to do now? We have the data, we need to compare the data. So we're going to need to, I think we might end up redesigning this a couple times, but I'm going to try to just go with looping first. What actions do we have? We got to make sure we use. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if we're going to use create data, new data table. That may not be a thing in this situation. All right. I've been sitting here staring at the screen thinking about the right way to do this. And I think we should just go for it. You know, I think that we're going to make a bad design. That's what I think. That's what I think is going to happen. I'm going to make this and then go, you know what would have been a better way to do this? But we're not going there. Okay. We're not going there. We're going to do this right. Now, oh, you know what though? I just thought of a better way. Okay, yeah. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to find some conflict with find or replace and update data. I think I have an idea on the fringes of my mind. We're going to try this. Let me say it out loud so you can remind me in like a few minutes in case I forget. That's possible, right? I think what we're going to do is loop over the server customers and check that each of those rows exist in local customers. And along with that, make sure all the values are correct. If they're not, then we update the local customers data table to make it match. As we loop through the server customers data table, we will pick something like the last name, and we will try to find that in the other data table here. It will obviously find it. And once we find out what row that's on, we'll then immediately read all of the other fields from that row, and we'll compare all of the fields to each other. If any of them are wrong, then we update them. We want to go for each. And we are looping over, what did I say, server customers, and we'll call each one server customer. That's the data row. As we loop over this, we want to find the corresponding row in the other one. Now we could loop. We could do a for each loop over the local customers, but I want to try not to do that just so we use this action up here. So let's do find in local customers. We want to find all matches. That seems fair. Text to find is going to be the last name. Yeah, I don't suppose we can search on multiple columns. You can so you can search everywhere, right? That's multiple columns, but what I mean is combining the values of multiple columns and making that sort of part of your condition. So as an example, I want to find the row in this other data table where the first name is this and the last name is that. I don't know how to do that in this yet. It may not even be possible. So we're going to go based solely on the last name at first. So let's get, let's see, we're doing server customer. And I think we want to go, I think it's going to be like last name with, I forgot to put the single quotes. Here's the single quotes. Server customer, column, last name. Match the case. I think we can do case insensitive. Do we want to match the entire cell contents? Yes. And then we don't need to search everywhere. We can just search on the specific column last name, I think. And then we'll get data table matches. We can leave the name there like that. And data table matches. So once we run this, we want to do an if statement. So if the data table matches dot rows count is greater than, let's go with not equal to 1. I think I'm going to change that to something later on, but we'll go with not equal to 1 because we would expect most of the time, and in fact, in our situation, all the time, I think the match will, wait, I think I wanted equal. Yeah, if it equals 1, that means we got 1 result, and that's the row that we want. So now I think we need to read the value from the other columns. What is the best way for us to do that? So there's not just like a read row or get row. Okay. Idea. Can we just get the entire data row? If I just did like set variable. Just want to test that really quick. Call this local customer. And this should be a data row if it works out. I want local customers, and then in like a square bracket, we put like, let's just test like 1. I've no idea if this is a thing. I'll probably feel dumb in just a second here. So let's put a breakpoint, and then I think we run this. Find or replace. Last name's not found. Data table? What? I thought it used to put, am I crazy? I thought it used to put underscores in there. I'm slightly confused. That's fine. We'll just put no underscore. And I guess we put no underscore here. Now we got to run it from the beginning. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. No big deal. It's not too slow. Okay. Let's see. Find or replace in data table, and we put the data table matches. Where's that at? Okay, we got 1 row. So row 0, column 1. I forgot already what we were searching though. So this is, we just looped into the first row of server customers and put server customer here. Okay, so here's a server customer. We're trying to find John Smith inside of local customers, which is row 1, or well, index 0. Now it's going to see if the rows count equals 1, which it does. So I'm going to step, and it goes down here. Now, this is the question. Will this work? We're trying to take the... right. I could have used the data table matches value. I need to go and fix that. But right now I have it hard-coded to pull the second row. So this is actually incorrect, but we're going to pull the second row if this works and put it into local customer. I'm the best. Okay. Maybe this is something I learned before and I just forgot. Anyway, it works. That's great. So now I need to stop it. And I need to, instead of putting this hard-coded 1, somehow I need to get the value of data table matches from index 0. How do I do that? Can I just do this? Data table matches. That's the data table. But I need the row that's inside that. Row 0. And I need the... This is breaking my brain right now. Oh, I just need the whole row. Yeah. Oh, gosh. This is hurting my brain. I think I just did it wrong. Yeah, that didn't work. Data table matches. Why doesn't that work? I'm a little confused. Let's see. Local customer. We're talking about a data table. Oh, right. We need an index number to come out of this. That makes sense. And what's actually in there? I totally forgot. We need the row and column number. Oh, we don't care about the column number. We care about the row number. So I should be able to do like row 0 and the column is row. I think this will work. Wait, it doesn't have a property 0. Variable local customers doesn't have a property 0. What? Do I need to... Okay. Power Automate has some problems still. I'm fairly sure this is not my problem. So in case you missed what just happened, I can't open this. I'm going to have to close it. Let me just make sure the value. So this put the value into local customer right here. Jane Dorsey. That is the wrong value. Oh, right, because I added 1. I'm dumb. Need to add 0. Okay, so in case you missed what just happened, basically what I'm trying to do is, so this is a data table, local customers, and then I put square brackets, okay, because what I want to put inside of here is the row number, whatever row number we're on right now. Now, there's other ways to, no, I don't think there's other ways to do this. I could have used another set variable probably, and then like a sequence of set variable actions, but I want to do it kind of together. So what I want to do is get the row number I needed from local customers. And the way I do that is to check the data table matches that I just ran, because I did a find, right? So I did a find, and inside that is the answer. Well, but I need to look in the first row of data table matches, specifically at the row column. So that's how I do this. I go data table matches, and the first row is a 0, right, inside of square brackets. And then the second square brackets points to the column. And so I did row. Well, the problem, I guess, because of how this is working, or maybe the value that's inside of that, it doesn't even make sense. It shouldn't be text, but for whatever reason, I think that this comes out as text or a string, and then Power Automate goes, oh, well, I mean, you can't use a string for this. Like it sees a string and goes, there's no column named 0, but there is an index of 0. So it needs to understand it as a number. Because of that, I then add 0 to it, telling Power Automate that this is a number. You should interpret this as an index, not as a column name. And then it finds the right thing and passes it back in. So let's just test it one more time and make sure I'm not crazy. It got the wrong row last time because I added 1 to it in order to make it a number, but adding 1 to it makes it the wrong index. So let's step. Yeah. Okay, so the John Smith, this is our local customer. And John Smith, this is our server customer. I think we made something different. Yeah, it's like the role. It says analyst and the server customer. Local customer says intern. So we got to fix that, and the phone number actually. So we need to. So what kind of conditionals we got? We have case and if. I think we need to loop over all of the columns, and I think the easiest way to do that, because we don't want to do like if this column matches this column, if this column matches this column, if this column matches this column. That's silly. So I think we can do a loop here. But first we have to get the column names. So let's do, I'm just going to copy this set variable and we'll call this like column names. I don't know why I've been putting, why am I putting underscores here? I should probably just stop doing that. Column names like that or something. And, well, now I'm inconsistent though, because I have underscores in some places and not others. Now let's loop over the column names. This is not what I want it to be called. I want this to be column name. And for each column name, we compare the two. I think that's right. If, this is hurting my brain, local customer, column name equal to server customer column name. Am I doing this right? Let's see, equal to. We should probably do not equal to. Okay, if it's not equal to, because if it is equal, then we just want it to move on. So if it's not equal, then I think we're gonna, let's see, I need to go copy this. Data table, update data table item. We want to update the local customers and the column and row. I have to think about that for a second. But the new value is going to be, oh, I have to get the column and row. Can I use the name? Oh, column name. Cool. So this would be column name. And the new value is not this. The row. How do I know what row we're in? Okay, I'm just gonna put something in here for now so it doesn't throw an error. For each column name and column names, somewhere here we have the row number. Here we are. Data table matches this. Row. I think this is what we want. Here. Data table matches row. And then new value is going to be server customers column name. It's getting pretty involved. Okay. And then should that do it? If it's wrong, it'll loop through all the columns. Wait, at this point, would it technically fix all of the columns in all of the rows? Well, there's nothing better than just running it, right? It's not like we're going to break our local customer spreadsheet. We will wait till the end to actually update it. There's no way this works on the first try. That's not how things work in my life. Column or property John not found. I never fixed this. What am I doing? This was supposed to get the column names. Okay. Okay, let's pretend like that didn't happen. We want to get the column names. We could probably use our local customer file. I don't think it really matters. We want the column names, column headers row, columns, list of text values. I'm not sure. Local customers.columns. I think that's what I want. Yeah, and then technically what we're looping over is like a list over here. So let's see if that works. It might work this time, but probably not. Argument row index must be an integer value. Added 0 to that. Let's see if that makes it work. What? Row, okay, actually update data table item. Row index must be an integer value. Oh. It actually might have worked before. We'll try it like this because I didn't put percents around it. I think it actually should work this time because I think those are integers in the output. Dude, I just like wait, doesn't have property named. Server customers doesn't have a property role in company. What? But like this came from this unaltered. Role in company. There it is. There it is. Role in company. What? Server customers. Role in company. Column names. Role in company. Doesn't have a property. Role in company. Server customers doesn't have a oh right, that makes sense. No. I think that makes sense. Let's see. Wait, which one failed? Here. Server customers column name. That should be server customer because remember the data row is the one that has the columns. Let's try that again. Dude, I'm just doing so bad with this. I'm just pretending this is normal. This is quite normal for me. Anytime I develop in literally any tool, feels like this all the time. Okay, it did a lot of things. I saw lots of blinking on the screen, and I think that's a good sign. Let's go look at, so what should be fixed? Local customers should be fixed now. But remember, it's not going to delete rows or add rows. It's only going to be correcting things. Some of the ones that I remember are that John Smith should now be analyst, right? Because his role changed, I guess, from intern to analyst. We have his full phone number, and then I can't remember which one it is, but one of these down here had I reduced their phone number. Let's see which one it was. Doug, Derek Doug, or Doug Derek. Doug Derek, yeah, so his full phone number's there. Is there anything else I did? Thought I did something down here. So it was intern, this, and this. I think that's all, maybe that's all I did. And then the other things were that I added one customer here that doesn't actually exist in the server file, and I deleted a couple that need to be added back. So we need to add that functionality in. So let's try that. All right, let's minimize. Let's see, we're looping through this. We're doing find. Now let's say that it doesn't find anything. So if DataTable matches.rows count equals 0. So we need to do an else if statement or clause or whatever. I'm not sure where to drop this. Here. So else if data table matches dot rows count equal to 0. Then that means, let's see, what would that mean? If local customers isn't found, that means that we need to add it. So let's do our add action. So we're going to need insert row into data table. Now we're already looping into server customers, and we already got server customer as a data row. So we should be able to just directly insert that into the local customers. So we want to insert into local customers. And where do we want to add this? As much as I'd love to add this into the proper place where it was removed from, I think that'd be hard to actually maintain. So I think that what we probably should do is sort at the end of this operation so that we're like alphabetically ordered or something like that. New value is going to be the whole row, right? It says this parameter accepts a list or data row variable. Cool. So let's pick our data row, which is local, server customer, because it's somebody who doesn't exist at all. And I don't remember how many there were. I think we deleted 2. So 2 things. So instead of 7 columns, or I'm sorry, instead of 9 rows after running this again, we should get 11 rows. Okay, so local customers, we got 11 rows. So it looks like, yeah, so here's Bugs Bunny, the one we added. There are now 2 new rows below that. So those were the 2 rows that I removed from our local customers file, and the server customer still has it. So it added those 2 back in. What have we used? So we've used insert row, find or replace, update data table item, and we need to use delete row from data table. So let's go with let's do another else if. Else if data table matches dot rows count greater than 1. And then I guess we could, just for clarity's sake, let's go with maybe greater than or equal to 2. So, but I'm actually going to remove this. I did a little bit of thinking through this, and I think that normally we should actually implement this, and I'll go ahead and describe the concept. Matter of fact, I will put terminate, because this would be probably the right way to do it when it's sort of like an out of scope thing. What is this? Specify process. No, that's not what I meant to do. Terminate process, I don't think is what I meant. That's like a Windows process. Flow control. Okay, stop flow. That's what I meant to say. So let's do with error message. 2 rows with the same last name were found, and the flow is not designed to handle this scenario. Obviously, you would normally build that in to handle it. It's not that complicated. The idea is if 2 people on the server, so we come across a last name in the server file, and we look it up in the local file, we find 2 rows with the same last name. That's not a big deal. We can then check their first name or maybe other details. So in this, we would probably have some logic to check, like, okay, well, which one are we actually dealing with? Which one is the same first name as the server file? And then we go forward with that. But because that's basically just reproducing the same logic we've already done up here, I'm just not going to go through the effort. And our sample data does not have that problem. So just want to be clear. So in the case that ever pops up, whenever I'm testing this, it'll hit this and the thing will stop. So it won't accidentally update somebody's information incorrectly. It'll just terminate entirely. And then somebody would need to go in and build this to handle that scenario. Okay, so let's move on. And what we do need to do is build in a way to check to make sure that we don't still have any customers in our local customers file that no longer exist in the server customers. And if you'll remember to remind here, this is the row, Bugs Bunny does not exist in the server customers. And so that would get deleted. The best way I think for us to do this is we'll probably just base it on the last name again. But I think maybe at the end of this, we need to loop again. But this time we loop through the local customers and just verify that every single row in that exists in the server. So let's go for each. The value to iterate is going to be local customers. This is going to be local customer for the data row. And then what we want to check is something similar to up here. So find or replace. So we're going to find all the items actually in server customers. So we want to find all matches. I think we're going to make this simple logic. So I'm going to do not all matches. This is just going to be the first one. So if we find that last name listed, then we move on. And again, this is something you would want to build more robust if you're doing this for real, because you don't want to, sort of match on the wrong person. That would be bad. So the text to find is going to be local customer, last name, and we want to find it on the last name column and match the entire cell contents. That looks good. Variables produced. I don't think we care about this. Do we care about it? I think we do care about it. Find or replace. We're actually going to find all the matches. That feels bad leaving it like that. So we're going to go copy this concept up here and paste it into here. Now, if we found multiple matches, same thing again, we would throw an exception saying, hey, that we can't deal with that. But if we found, let's delete, we don't need update. What? No statement found to catch to match the end statement. Okay, there we go. If we found one result, then I think we don't do anything, because that means we don't need to delete anything. So we just remove this. If we find 0 results, then we need to delete. So let's go get our delete action. We want to delete from customers. Local customers. The row index, though. Do we know the row index? Oh, we got to figure that out again. Let's see. I think it's in here. So I think we can cheat and go copy this out of here. So the row index is going to be like whatever's in DataTable matches, index 0, and then the row column to tell us what row from the server customers that we found. And no, this isn't right. No, this is right, because we didn't search the server customers, we searched the local customers. That isn't right then. So we actually need to know the index number of customers that we're in. So this is actually tough, because normally it's bad to delete things from the data table that you're working on, because that will mess things up. In this case up here, we were, where was it? We were inserting a new row. Where was that at? Yeah, we inserted a new row into a data table that we were not looping over at the time. But now we want to loop over local customer, or local customers. So I think we need to create a copy of this. So let's do set variable. And we're just going to copy local customers copy. We want to put local customers into it. And then we will actually want to loop over local customers copy here. That way we can delete things from local customers without having any problem being able to continue looping over local customers copy. Now at this point, we still have to know the index number though. So if that's a property, we could do that. Local customer. Okay, well, we could just go with the easy route, which is to increment a variable for now. So we'll just go like index, and we'll set the index to 0 to begin with before we start this loop. And then we'll just increment it. Index plus 1. And then each time we loop into here, it'll go 1 the first time. Wait, does that make sense? Or should it be 0 index based? I never know which one it is. Deleter, this is row index. So I think it's probably 0 index based. So we could start this with start this being -1. And then we could increment it by 1 so that it would go to 0 the first time. And it should delete whatever row we're on. Row index is actually just going to be index from local customers. And let's put a breakpoint here so that we can see when it reaches that. Okay, so you can see it got to 11 rows, but we know that we need to delete 1 row. Okay, it looks like it happened. So we looped over local customers, copy, and we came across one where when we searched for a customer in the server we searched for a customer in local customers. So we took a customer from local customers, searched for it in server customers, didn't find it. So the rows count as 0. Where's that? So data table matches right here. So this is 0 rows. That means that row no longer exists in the server. We should delete that. And that was Bugs Bunny. So let's step over this and make sure that local customers no longer has Bugs Bunny, and it's somewhere in here. I think it was in index 8. So let me go look at local customers copy. Yeah, so this is the one that we're not deleting anything from, just a temporary collection or temporary data table. And there's Bugs Bunny. And then I think we can just turn this off, and then we run to the end. It has nothing else to do. So now we have our local customers data table is now correct and matches the server. The last thing we need to do is write back to this local customers file. I think that maybe that's not necessary in this case because this is good enough for us just to test it, but I guess I'll go ahead and create it. So let's duplicate because I'm lazy. Can we duplicate? I guess I can copy, paste, and then let's rename this to set data. And we don't need to download from the web in this one. And then we only need to deal with one of the Excel files. Which one is it? We want to update the local customers. We don't need to do anything besides delete the server customers. So let's do that. Delete file. Delete files. I guess we could just leave it there. We'll go ahead and delete it. Here, server customers.xlsx. And if it reaches this far, then we can delete that. But otherwise, we'll stop. So let's go to the Excel actions. Why is this not in alphabetical order? What was I doing again? Right. Right. So there's our Excel instance. The value to write. Is this going to let me do collections or data tables? Local customers. Let's see if it lets me do data tables. I don't even know. Specified cell, column. Wait, is this indexes? Is this zero-based indexes? No, I don't know. Let's go with 1, 1. Oh, but will this include the headers? Oh, it's not going to include the headers, is it? Ah, that's so annoying. I could cheat, though. I could cheat and write it to row 2. Okay, let's try this. I feel like I did something wrong here. No, these don't belong here. We're just writing the values back into the customers. Okay. Here we go. So first, let's go ahead and, for now, because we're testing, let's back up this file. And then let's, we should actually move this because set data does not properly name what's happening there. We'll paste this. I think it pasted inside here. Drag it out, close this. And then I think I'm missing one thing. We need to run a subflow. Set data, and then we'll delete the file at the end there. Here we go. Okay, let's go check out local customers, see if it's correct. Bugs Bunny's still there. I know why. Set data, close Excel is set to do not save document. So we want to save document. And then now that this whole thing should work properly. Okay, now we check it. Looks good. We got the phone number. This guy's an analyst instead of an intern. Whichever Doug, Derek's full phone numbers here. Michael and Michelle were added back in, and Bugs Bunny was deleted. Did we miss anything? I don't think we missed anything. It was at this moment that I knew that I'd messed up. So here's the thing. I'm going to jump over to recording my screen now, and you won't see my camera for a little while. The reason is that I realized a mistake, and it turns out actually 2 mistakes that I've made in this flow, and I want to correct that now before I finish editing and posting this video. I have a small thing I need to point out that can go wrong here, and you can see the problematic stage is sort of red. It has an error that I ran a minute ago. I'm going to show you that in just a second. But basically what you need to do if you were to reproduce this whole thing, you'd need to reduce the value of index by 1 every time you delete a row from the data table. And that's because when we delete a row, that row doesn't exist, right? So the row that comes just after it moves up 1 position. So if we're at like, say, index 7 or something, and we delete that row, well, now the one that was in index 8 has now moved upward into index 7. So when we come back up here and we loop again, this index gets increased, and now we're pointing to the wrong row because the rows have shifted up. So let me show you what happens, or just to kind of prove what would happen here. I'm going to open up the local customers spreadsheet, and we will just change the values a little bit. I'm going to copy the bottom row and paste it twice. And because our our way to determine whether a row already exists or how to compare the rows between the local and the server is based upon the last name. I'm going to just change that. So I'm going to put A, B, C, and D, E, F. So those are different last names. So our flow should see these two rows as rows that do not exist in the server. I'm going to just save that. Obviously, all the rest of the data is the same, but that shouldn't matter based upon how we designed it. And what will happen is that it'll find that all these rows are fine. It'll do nothing with any of these. But then when we get down to somewhere around here, it should correctly identify that this row should be deleted. It'll delete this row. Imagine this is the data table. It will delete that row like I just did. And then you saw that 13 went up into 12. But now when we go loop again, and we determine that that 13th row should not exist anymore, it's going to try to delete this row. But this row doesn't exist because that data has moved up into the row before it. So let me just change this back. You can see we got A, B, C, D, E, F. Both these rows should get deleted, but we're going to get an error on the last one. So let's save it. I'm going to close that. And then I'm going to go back up here and run this whole flow again. It's going to re-download the server-side spreadsheet, and then it'll compare them here. It'll find them all the same except for the last two rows. You'll see it's going to delete once. There, it deleted once, and then when it came back again, it says index 11 is out of range. Now let's go look real quick at, let's see, local customers. Is this local customers? Yeah. So if I scroll down, you'll see that the Norton ABC was correctly deleted, but then Norton DEF moved up into its row, that row that existed previously for ABC. And so now when it tries to delete index 11, it doesn't exist. So easy thing to change. We grab this set variable, and I'm going to paste it inside of here below delete row from data table. We're going to change this to subtract the index. And so it'll increment it. Right, it'll delete the row from the data table using that new index. Then we want to reduce the index because we've removed the row. Then we come back up, it's going to increment the index again, but at this point, we'll be at the correct row. So let me save this. And now I'm going to go back into the local customers. You can see it kept the server customers because it failed to run all the way through, so it didn't delete the file at the end. So that's why that's still there. I'm going to go ahead and delete that for our test. Let me open up local customers. And let's, oh, we've still got the same thing in here. So we'll leave this and we'll verify that both 12, whoops. We'll verify that both 12 and 13 get properly deleted. Okay, finished, no errors. Let's go open up the spreadsheet and just verify that it deleted. Did not delete those. Let's go check local customers here. Okay, so this worked, but does it write the correct value when it goes to set data? Yeah. Just cell 1, row 2, local customers. Oh, right. Okay. So that's another problem that we have, a totally different issue that I did not expect. Okay. Wow. So because the data set that we just wrote into local customers is smaller than the data set that was there previously, it technically just now, it wrote into these cells right here. And it left these down here because, like, why would it remove those? So I think that's a totally different problem. Do I feel like dealing with that now? I'm going to think about it. Maybe. I did not expect to be doing this right now, but, you know, here we are. I can't leave it like this. Need to fix this problem of that the Excel spreadsheet might have more rows in it on the client side or on the local side than the server side has. And if we just write the new values from the server side, we figure out what the new data set should be, and we just write it from A2 all the way down to whatever, then it might leave rows here from before. And that's incorrect. So I think what we'll do is try to delete all of this right before we write the data back in. So let's go over and try to use delete from Excel worksheet. This action underneath Excel advanced. I'm going to go over to the set data subflow, and we'll try to include it here because I think that makes sense. Once we have our data set and we're ready to go, we are going to open up the local customers Excel and write the new values in, but right between these two steps is where we need to delete from that worksheet. Now, I don't know exactly where we're getting some of these values, but I think we're going to want to retrieve values from a range of cells. I don't think that's correct. It says deletes a range of cells. Why does it say retrieve values from a range of cells? I think they meant to put delete or something. Okay, and then start column, start row. That's easy. That's going to be, are these numbers? Cell column or first column as a numeric value or a letter. Okay, so we'll just do column 1 and the row will be 2. And then the end column is going to be however many columns we have. The end row will be however many rows we have. Actually, I guess how many rows we had in the original data set. So I need to make sure that I have recorded that somewhere. Now that I think about it, let me try running from up here. Just want to run get data. Oh, it's not going to let me run when I have a problem. So let's disable this action. I just want to run get data. And this is going to get the first free row and column and all that stuff. So I'm thinking that I can use these same values later on here in set data. So first free column, first free row. I think that will work. End column. I guess we go first free column and end row will be first free row. Maybe -1 for each of these. Though I suppose it doesn't hurt to delete extra. I have to think about that. I guess we can just test it. So the shift direction, I think, is going to be up because we're deleting rows. I don't think this actually matters though, but we'll do shift up and then we'll save that, enable it. And will that just, is that it? No way, it's that easy. Here we go. Oh, I should have closed this first. Let's stop all this and make sure I have Excel closed. Okay, here we go. It's getting the data. And now it's just comparing them. It should find that it needs to delete 2 rows. And then it deletes from the data table, or deletes from the Excel spreadsheet and then writes the data. There we go. And now we have our data set that we wanted. And these 2 down here were deleted from the data table and also cleared, and everything here was cleared from the spreadsheet before it wrote back into the file. So I wanted to compare this local customers to the server customers. Make sure that those look the same. So they don't. Oh, but because they're in a different order. Michael, Michelle. But we have 11 rows. We technically have 10 rows here and 10 rows here. And we have the same number of columns. So everything looks good. All right. Well, that was supposed to be a quick fix that I was going to show you about just fixing the index issue, but here we are, like, I don't know how many minutes just trying to fix that problem. But that's how it goes sometimes. You think you're done, and then you discover that there's actually hours more effort. So if you're still here watching this, thanks for being here. It's kind of shocking to me, but that anybody would watch for this long. But honestly, I think I would have done this even without recording a video for it, because it helped me to try this stuff out and learn it a little bit better. All right, so I'm going to go back now and let past Dave continue, and my camera will come back on because I recorded that in the past. And I just wanted to get this done, so I didn't set up my camera or anything. But all right, thanks. I know that was probably a lot of time, and sometimes I question why I'm putting these whole videos on YouTube, but every time I say that, at least one person comments and is like, hey man, it's perfectly fine. Just do it. You do you. So I'm doing me. So I'm just posting this whole thing. The last thing I'll say though is I think this is an example of I learned how to use this better by trying to use this more. So at the beginning of the video, I used these actions a little bit, and I had barely used them before the video. I used them a little bit to verify that I knew what I was doing, that I knew how to use the actions somewhat, but then I really implemented it, right? Using an actual use case. And then I saw problems you can run into and things like, oh, well, that action doesn't directly output this information. I need to calculate that information, or I need to figure that out. Or like that time where weirdly, if you have like a data table reference inside the square brackets of another data table reference, then for whatever reason, Power Automate turns it into text. So I had to add 0 to that so that it forced it to recognize it as a number instead of a column name like 0. That was really weird. But anyway, you would never know that if you don't really get into the nitty gritty and try it to make sure you fully understand it. And now I'm pretty confident after all that effort that whenever I need to do data table manipulation in the future, I'm not going to have to learn it at that time too. I'm ready to go. And I think you should do that with every action in this, every group of actions in Power Automate Desktop, especially if you use this professionally. Currently, I don't use this tool professionally. I don't do it for my job. I've had meetings and stuff about it, but I've never had to develop in it for my full-time job. I still use Blue Prism. But if I were to use this for my full-time job, you better believe within the first month or so, I would have gone through every single action, the entire thing, and made sure I know how to use it and done this kind of effort. Because that's what I do. I can't help but not try to learn something in depth. I encourage you to try to do the same thing and let me know how it goes. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.